Well, hello, my friend. Surprise for the third Saturday in a row. I want to make it a surprise. I don't know if it'll be regular, but I've got a podcast for you. I've got a conversation with two hilarious comedians who I love to talk to, and are good friends of mine. Christian Finnegan, Ophira Eisenberg, both joined me today, Saturday, for a great conversation where we first talked about some serious issues regarding health insurance, because Ophira has lost it for a moment. Her health insurance, not it. We've all been there. Not all of us, but many of us. It's terrifying, it's awful, and it's just a broken system. And we talked about some other current events, had some laughs, and I think you're really going to like it. Christian is doing a comedy special taping next Thursday in New York City and Queens. If you're in or around, then go check it out. All right. And also, Ophira has started a new Substack to go with her podcast called Parenting is a Joke. Subscribe to that. Subscribe to new music for olds as well. And yeah, let's do it. How about it? Let's get started right now. Christian Finnegan, Ophira Eisenberg. I'm always recording, but this is where I decided to start. Ophira and I are parents. We love our kids. Ophira even hosts a podcast about parenting. Christian, you said, I rarely regret not having kids. When, if you ever actually do you?
Are we recording?
Yeah.
No hello, no welcome, or just straight into midlife regrets. Just
barreling in.
Yeah.
So, but when you have regret, how does it feel?
Yeah.
So when you've realized that you made a horrible mistake and lived your life wrong, and that there's no way to go back and repair that, how does that make you feel?
Like on a Friday.
So are you? That's a legit question. I should respond to it. Okay.
I mean, after you've questioned it being a question twice, now I feel so fucking awful. I'm thinking maybe not.
No, I'm just
come on, you can handle it.
I regret not having kids sometimes. On the holidays, definitely, or not that. I never regret not having kids because I know I didn't want them, but the time when I acutely understand why someone would want them are holidays for sure, like Christmas and Halloween and things like that. Like my best friend doesn't have kids either, and he said to me a few years ago, and he's like, I just don't really enjoy Halloween anymore. It's like, dude, you're a childless 48-year-old. Like, it would be weird if you liked Halloween.
That's great.
But I know those people.
I like the nuance that you're applying to it in moments. Okay.
But also, like, sometimes when I feel directionless and do I have a point and why am I here? And, those sort of existential feelings, I'm like, oh, if I had kids, I would, that would alleviate a lot of this, I imagine. But that's not the reason to have kids. No, it doesn't.
And it doesn't. No.
Huh, interesting.
No. You just feel bad. And then you go, and I brought someone else into this.
Oh, I did. I actually, I disagree. Believe it or not, I have not thought about it the way you just posed it. But I do think that when I am questioning any purpose I might have left, I feel pretty purposeful most of the time. But I certainly spend some time wondering. I do fall back on, well, I'm my kid's father. I'm here for them. But then they're older. How much more am I needed? But I also love what Ophira said, too. So there's that.
Yeah, that when I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm like, and now I have a witness. That's
another way of saying the same thing, which it is true. I do, I do worry about letting them down a lot. Yeah. And then I see myself doing that. And I'm letting them down.
As I'm letting them down, I feel really bad about it.
In the smallest of ways and the biggest of ways. Like just telling Julia that I fixed her door so it wouldn't close on its own for some reason, and then it keeps closing on its own. That's a humiliation that I didn't need.
Because you were probably so proud of yourself when you fixed it.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, I felt like I did a useful, purposeful thing for my daughter. And then it's like clear failure moments later.
Yeah. A door open close is like the clearest metaphor, too.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well,
for every door that keeps closing, God won't open a window.
There's one that Pete can't get to open.
Pete specific. How did I make it in the scriptures? Well,
every time God has a
I don't think that's
person.
scripture. I think that's a throw pillow.
Every time God closes a door,
Word art.
he locks it.
There you go.
Very deep. Very
God,
deep.
the teenager. That was God when he was like 20.
So the other thing about I think one of the hardest things about having kids is something that Ophira is, how about this for a segue, dealing with this week is when you lose your job or you're an independent contractor and you have or lost health insurance. It's a nightmare because, as Ophira writes about it in her new Substack, like right now she's over the donut hole. Like she doesn't have health insurance, and on Mother's Day they wanted to go for a hike, and the whole damn time she's worried about someone turning an ankle or being eaten by a ferocious beast. Ophira.
Yeah, I know. It was so actually, and we still are in the same predicament. And we were supposed to go camping this weekend. And I was like, oh, that's perfect to go camping, no health care, where all of nature is basically trying to tell you every moment that you shouldn't be there, that it would be great if they could just somehow get together, all the animals, insects, poisons, and attack you. This would be a perfect time. Oh, I can't wait to like have that like one, light beer in where I decide that I can stoke with my own hand moment. and I'm like, oh, great. So that was 20 grand we don't have. So, but it got canceled because it got rained out. And part of me, I really would have liked to have gone with these people. Part of me is like, yeah, I shouldn't do anything dangerous.
Well, being in a car, traveling in a car, being in the car is the most dangerous thing about your hike idea. But Christian, don't you just want to look at her and be like, kind of your fault. You could have stayed in Canada. We don't feel bad for you.
I don't know why you pushed that on me if you didn't have the guts to just say that yourself, that you had to somehow project that onto me, Pete. But I mean, it is a mystery to me why you could be in a perfectly good second world nation like Canada and decide to
well, the point is she knows what it feels like both ways. It's just a horrible feeling to not have health insurance, and if as an individual, but it's way worse if you have a kid and you worry, oh my gosh, if something happened to my kid. When I lost my job at Sirius, we never had any issues. Like the four of us, we're all covered by my policy there. The month I lost my job, my insurance ended, is when Ava was diagnosed with scoliosis. Not life-threatening, but it was going to be a lot of therapy and a lot of money there. And then she had to be put in this, one of those freaking plastic body holders, back braces. Yeah. And that cost like $5,000. With insurance, it would have been nothing at the insurance I had. So it sucks. It just sucks.
So, and just as a weird note, so, it was I'm sure someone at their job knows how to do it, but just but mostly Jonathan, he took this on, my husband, like calling to get, because this was such a complicated way that we lost our insurance. The amount of bodies, nobody knows what's going on. For many, many points of these calls, you are explaining to people their jobs, getting them up to speed. It was just, and then getting transferred to not only the wrong departments, but it would be like, this is Georgian state, and like the wrong
now
state.
Imagine you don't speak. Now imagine you don't speak English.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then, it was such a hellscape of customer service, frustration, whatever. And at the end of, near the end of it, we're still, I think we're almost done, a beautifully timed survey. I got an email survey about how did we do for you from the insurance company. And I just was like, fine. And I just filled it all out. It did take 5 minutes because you can go real fast when you're just highly disappointed on every single one of their little spectrums. And I wrote in the comments, like, nobody knows what you're doing, constantly being rerouted to the wrong place, misinformation, da, da, da. And then someone called us yesterday from the resolutions department who, get this, knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, there's somebody there that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, it was going to try to figure it out. And Jonathan was literally like, I have been talking to 4 or 5 different people in your departments for a week now. And you're telling me just because my wife filled out an angry survey, I'm now speaking to someone?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why he got him. It's a nightmare navigating it. And thanks to Obamacare, by the way, I mean, thanks to that law, we could afford poor people insurance after I lost my corporate job and didn't have an income. It was like, thanks to the expansion of Medicaid. So we get private, insurance that's subsidized by, the government. Thank God, because without it,
right.
How are we possibly going? We wouldn't have been able to afford it. So and that's a New York State thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I would have done with my surgery a couple of years ago. I mean, I would have been just FUKT, just like completely. Yep. I mean, I had amazing insurance when I was in the Writers Guild, and then that lapsed, and I paid Cobra for a year and a half, just even though it was complete flushing, setting money on fire, just to hold on to that good insurance. My wife had breast cancer, and so it's like we needed insurance, and thank God for Obamacare, because that's what I have now. Yeah. And I would have been royally fucked. I mean, even still, it cost me way much more than it should have. And like you were saying, Pete, like if you're somebody who doesn't speak English, or, that's why this whole, I'm not to get all this macro about it, but this whole idea of like, if you work hard, you'll get ahead. And this is a meritocracy. It's like, that's the fucking lie that the winners say. Or, the people who are genetically fortunate to justify the sort of lofty perch from which they look down at the plebs and watch us all fucking scramble around and try to, make $1 into $1.01.
Well, by the way, there is a narrative where that can be true, i.e. me, right? But it's just still stupid. Like, you work hard, you did well, I got a good job at a good company, I lasted 15 years, but when I was let go, it wasn't because I did something wrong. They killed the channel, whatever it is. But the point is, I'm like millions of other people who worked hard, did well, and all of a sudden your job was gone, and then where are you supposed to get health insurance, even though you did everything right? It wasn't your fault that you lost your job. And now, by the way, you did well for 15 years. You created a family. You thought you could afford them. And now how are you supposed to afford them? You can't afford anything if you have to pay. It's a uniquely American thing, and it's evil. And I'm glad we're talking about it as a result of Ophira having to deal with it, because people are having to deal with it every day in this stupid country.
And there's so many different, so there's like, actually, just speaking of Cobra, there's a thing in New York State called a continuance. I think it's in other states too, where if you had Cobra, they will, because of the pandemic, they will extend your 18 months to 36, but nobody knows how to execute that.
Well,
and we called what was called the New York State Continuance Office, and it is, so anyone right now can call this number, and it will ring and go straight to a voicemail that says, "Hi, we're in a meeting for 1 to 2 hours. We'll get right back to you after that." And it never changes.
The good thing
the perpetual meeting.
The good thing about hosting a show or being on a show and talking about these things is you hear from people. I'm sure people will reach out to you and say, "I had this happen," and give advice about what they did in these situations, because it's super helpful. Well, it sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
And just the amount of just the muck that we're all forced to live in, just to try to muddle along. It's like we're all in a foot of snow trying to sort of go about our day. It's like when it's like, oh, you're walking, normally you'd walk down the block and it takes 3 minutes or whatever, but it's like, imagine like the day after, I'm sorry, this is a strange metaphor. The day after a snowstorm, when there's like a foot of snow that you're having to trudge through. Yeah, you can get there, but it takes so much more effort and so much more time and so much more of your energy. And it's like, that's what the healthcare system does to you in this country. It's just a fucking foot of snow that you have to walk through constantly to get the simplest thing done.
It's a metaphor, but you could also just equate it to capitalism. Like, if you wanted to make that argument, the best thing for capitalism would be government run insurance, because then you wouldn't spend all your time working on the insurance problems that you have and not producing whatever widgets or bullshit work that we have to do. I mean, like, we can't be productive if we're having to deal for a week with some insurance company or claim. And same thing at every doctor's office.
Tethering healthcare to employment is the original sin. It really is.
And let me tell you something, present company excluded, but any other person that I've talked to literally goes, "Well, wait a second. Can't you just get it through your husband's company?" Everyone assumes that if you are in a couple, one of you is working for a corporation.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
You go, he's the answer, and just look with sad eyes, like, "Oh, I don't know.
All three of us are perfect examples of people who either them or their spouse does not have some kind of government or corporate job. Like, like we're all...
Well, yeah. And it's like, my wife started her own business. That's what we're supposed to be encouraged to do in this country. That's the American dream. Start your own fucking business, It's, yeah.
She should have started an insurance agency.
I'm starting an insurance company.
And meanwhile,
right
it's like we have health insurance tethered to employment, and yet so many industries, and this is part of what the writer's strike is about, is trying to turn everything into a gig, trying to take every profession and turn it into a gig and turn everybody into a freelancer. Which wouldn't be
as terrible if we had insurance.
Exactly.
I'd do 12 gigs.
You can't have both.
Right. And no other country does. So there's that, and I'm glad we talked about it, and I'm glad you're talking about it in your new Substack. Of course, Ophira, which is partnered with your podcast, who you had Tig Notaro, big names getting on the show.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Very good, very nice.
Tig was great,
and
high recommends.
And so, and everybody loved our conversation last week about Mother's Day. So I appreciate that, and I guess yours got ruined by not having health insurance. But.
How was your mom's Mother's Day, Pete?
Didn't talk to her. We are not talking. Having a little bit of a spat. No, it was great. She's coming. My parents are coming tomorrow. We're going to see them tomorrow. We're going to celebrate Mom, and I called her. I texted her, and I had her on this show to talk to her about her mom, my grandma, and a couple other things. And people always like that. People are like to overhear conversations with your parents. It's always a fun thing. Yeah. I think David Letterman started that. I'm not sure who did it first, but
it gives you such a perspective on who your friend is when you meet their parents. It's those are the ingredients.
You're like, exactly. I see the genetics very strong.
That's why it's
there's the pathology. There it is.
I think it's super important to date someone to who you've met their parents or know as much as possible about them, because if they're gone, you never got to meet them, then you can't explain stuff.
True. I know. I can say whatever I want.
I mean, I tried to spend as much time as I could with my wife's father, but visiting hours at the Huntsville Penitentiary were such that it made that difficult.
Well, you did exchange letters, and you did get to know him later, and he was a very important part of even your life. But that is also...
trust me, between Cambry writing her memoir and just her, just living with her, is like I feel like I know the dude better than my own parents. So.
A couple of things I wanted to ask you guys about this week, of course. Just real quick, one political thing that we can speak to as performers and just, curious people, observers. Ron DeSantis, I'm pretty obsessed, and I saw you tweeted this, Christian, I think. There's video of him going around laughing at some guy, and then you said something like, it's even worse than I thought when you watch it.
Well, I just retweeted somebody else saying that, but yeah.
Okay. So, Ophira, you see this video. Have you seen DeSantis and the way that he has this real weird movements and laughter and reactions physically to things? And how do we explain why that turns voters off, but people in general off? Like, I don't know, but it's very important. And Donald Trump is going to attack him for it, and he's not going to know how to react to it.
Well, his reaction will be super weird and unsettling. We know that.
Yeah. I mean, Trump's reactions are super weird and unsettling, but no one ever attacks him, and no one cares, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because it does feel like it's that whole thing where you're like, are you human? It's like an alien. It's like a robot was like slightly misprogrammed of how to laugh or something. And it came out all herky.
You suspect he's faking it. Like you suspect that he's really trying to project like, I'm enjoying myself now. He's doing
I'm just a happy-go-lucky dude.
Oh, yeah. I never thought of that. I thought it was genuine entirely. But
maybe it is. But to me, when I see somebody laughing in a way that's just like, that's not how humans laugh. My first thought is, you're imitating someone enjoying himself because you're putting it on because you're in a situation where you look like you're supposed to be having fun. Like, I am a very ugly laugher. Like my face does ugly things. No, when I like really am laughing, like when I see photos of myself laughing, it's not attractive. And so I have sympathy, but at least I still look like I'm laughing. Like, I don't look like that.
A human being.
Yeah.
But you're also not selling anything while you're doing it either. Like, it's different when it's a politician than someone that just came over for a dinner party and is quirky and has a weird affect. It's
right.
It's this guy's trying to get me to trust him, and he's jerking all around. Like, it's bizarre.
And also the just goofy white veneers, like gleaming in the light as he cocks his head
easy.
back.
Easy on the veneers. Easy who you're talking to.
Nothing wrong with having veneers, but it's like you don't need to get them in like ghost white like that.
I literally chose ghost white for mine.
Well, you got to choose ghost white when you're putting on top of those little vampire teeth that they file them down to.
Yeah, well, that was why I got them. This is really hitting close to home. Okay, so yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene said that calling someone a white supremacist is equal to calling someone the N-word. Ophira, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that that's a fair point?
No. No. It's like calling, right. It's, I mean, that is because because that's the power is all wrong there. I mean, like, that is just ridiculous.
Power is wrong.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also like white supremacist describes behavior. You know, calling someone the N-word describes a person's immutable characteristics. Do you know what I mean?
People are born white supremacists.
That is true. That's a good point. Good point. I came out of the room with a big. I came out of the womb with a big swastika tattoo on my forehead.
Yeah, it's not an immutable. Right.
Yeah, I mean, also, I guess that I thought white supremacists don't mind being called white supremacists. Am I wrong with that?
That's a good question. I think that a lot of them don't believe that they are white supremacists, and a lot of the belief around I'm not racist is really as simple as they have people in their family and their life that they really love that are people of color. And so how could they be racist if they loved these two people?
Yeah. But they would be that they're white. If you said, well, white, they would be like, yeah. And you would say, well, you also think you are supreme. They'd be like, yeah, of course. So
that's the thing. Is like most people who say they aren't white supremacists, if you scratch the surface a little bit, they will. So you get the idea. Oh, you definitely do believe white people are supreme. You just don't want to be called a white supremacist.
Yeah. So it can be more different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Pete. Like, to me, you know, I've thought for a long time, and it's too late for this or whatever, but that there should be multiple words to describe racism in the same way that there's like first degree murder, second degree murder, third degree murder, manslaughter. Yes. Do you know what I mean? So because everybody thinks like, well, I can't be racist because I don't burn a cross in my lawn. You know what I mean? They look for the most extreme thing that they're not, and they don't feel like they're that. So therefore I can't possibly be racist. You know, and to me, it's like just having, you know, being able to have a civil or even friendly conversation with a person of color is not, you know, does not exclude you from being a racist. To me, it's like, where does your brain go when there's conflict? That's way more interesting to me than whether you're able to be friendly with a black person or an Asian person or whatever. It's like, okay, when you're in conflict with a person of color, where does your brain go then? That to me is much more indicative of whether you are, you know, a racist. We all are to a degree.
I think it's a great point about there should be nuance. Mine is, generally speaking, listen, the most important thing, as far as I've heard from almost all the black folks I know, educated, uneducated, whatever, is that they have the right to vote. They have access to voting, because all the other issues that we talk about that might minimize and marginalize their or other people's opportunities, that come through government one way or another, through law. So as long as I can vote, I don't care what you call me. Call me the N-word. That's up to you. You're a piece of shit. But like, don't take my right to vote, which is why that was the crown jewel of the civil rights movement of the 60s, was the right to vote. So now if you vote for people who are making it harder for black folks to vote, that's the most racist thing you can do. That's how that's how I say it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Sure.
Yeah. It's like taking all the power and using it for the same result in their mind.
And the same goes for taking race out of it, for taking women's rights, right? Like that's, are you pro women? Are you pro equality? Well, where are you on their health care?
Well, and these sort of movements that you're seeing in red states to give state legislatures the power to override elections, to
me is insane.
Yeah. Put in to remove DAs that they don't like, or to put in those city management boards, to oversee cities when they've decided that the elected government isn't doing the job that they want them to do.
But I was just going to say, it's not like I know we always talk about this idyllic place called Canada, but there was a whole thing in Alberta, where the province I am from, where there's like a set of laws that a certain Albertan body has come up with, and they wanted to pass this thing that if the federal laws didn't reflect what laws of Alberta are, they wouldn't have to follow them.
I mean, that's called secession. That's
yeah, right. It's like no.
Last thing I wanted to ask you both about is, of course, we've talked about the Writers Guild strike a couple weeks ago. It's been in its third week. That means I'm out of at least one gig last week tonight. I'm not sure how much you guys have been affected by that, or how much you'll be affected by a potential Screen Actors Guild strike. SAG-AFTRA has now called for a strike authorization vote, and I think they got it, right? So any interpretation on what this means and where we're at, Ophira?
Could be a lot of new podcasts.
Yeah, I wish podcasters would go on strike. No offense, Pete, not you, everybody else.
I wish we had a union.
Everybody else.
I mean, there's no union for the
Well, I mean, the fictional podcasts are on strike. That is part of it.
Is it?
I mean, yeah, it is. Yep. So, but I mean, I am frankly, the last strike that happened obviously wasn't in the time of social media, or to the extreme that it is now. So I feel like
the last writer's strike.
The last writer's strike. That's right. And so I feel like this one, to my eye, I mean, it's reflective of my feed, is just, I'm seeing so much being thrown out there, which I feel raises the visibility. And I think what is being asked is so reasonable. And I cannot believe it is just continuing. It's hard for me to believe. The whole
I think it'll last for a long time. I think it'll last.
Really?
I do. Because I mean, that's every strike. The first strategy of the management is to try to starve it out. Is to be like, all right, this flame will burn out, and then eventually the loud people in the room will get tired, and then the sort of rank and file who secretly just want to get back to work, we can negotiate with them, because it's like, we have money to sit back on. We're not in any, that the longer this goes on, the more it hurts. I mean, it's like a war. It's like a siege. It's this same sort of mentality. I mean, I think they're wrong, but I think that's so. I think it's going to go on for probably a few months, is my guess.
I hope you're wrong, but I think you might be right.
It's going to be a long summer.
Yeah. Well, what are we going to do then?
I mean, I'm not the first person to mention this, but it's so pathetic that like AI, like the way AI is manifesting itself is through the jobs that people actually want to do, and not the ones that they don't want to do.
What do you mean? I don't know what I mean. I don't know. I haven't follow that.
People want to write. They want to act. They want to create music. You're never going to have to worry about people wanting to go into those careers. The AI doesn't seem to be doing anything about slaughterhouses or ditch digging. And you know what I mean? Like all of the sort of grunt work that people would love to escape, having to do. You never, that AI is taking the jobs that people want instead of the jobs that people don't want. And to me, again, this is just a personal bugaboo of mine. It's just reflective of the jealous, angry nerd quality of the tech industry, is that, they hate artists because they've been rejected by them and they don't like them. And they think that I should be the writer. I've seen every Star Wars movie. Why I am in charge of the movie studio. And so that they want to in a sort of cruelty is the point way sort of show artists like, we don't need you. We can, you know, and then you pair that with the David Zaslavs of the world, these, you know, corporate mega company pieces of shit. And that's kind of like a recipe for disaster, you know, as you take corporate money and angry nerds, and that's a, you know, bad mix.
Love that rant. Wow.
It's amazing.
All right. Well, I appreciate both of you joining me to talk about all these things, wrapping up the week. People love that I've been dropping this on Saturday. So thank you for talking to me here, and I hope we can do it again next weekend. You guys
say one quick thing?
Sure.
If you were in around New York, I'm running my new hour stand-up on Thursday, the 25th at QED. It's me, pretty casual thing. I think there's like 15 tickets left, and it's just QEDastoria.com. And Thursday the 25th, I'm calling it A Lot of Heart, but that's just kind of a title for an hour of stand-up.
There's going to be a certain segment, a portion of your material dedicated to your chest being cracked open and heart being.
Yes, indeed. And also a lack of heart on my part in sort of a more metaphorical sense.
Love it all. Love it all. And I will plug it all. And also, Ophira, I'll plug it all on the way out. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thanks Pete.
But wait, there's more. We kept talking. I was recording on one of my devices, and I wanted to include one more final laugh at the expense of Harrison Ford.
The whole time. Dude.
Did you see that Harrison Ford got a standing ovation so long that he started crying at Cannes?
No. What?
Like crying, like, can I please sit down? I'm an old man. Please don't make me stand this long.
My knees are hurting.
He's a weird dude, huh?
I just read a review of the upcoming Indiana Jones movie. It was actually pretty positive, which is
I know.
Kind of encouraging.
Everything right now is very positive.
Everything's coming up there.
Looks like I just saw the preview. Me and Ava went to see the new Guardians of the Galaxy. And the preview, I saw the trailer. I don't know why I tell you all that. I saw the trailer for the new indie movie, and it looks like it's like his daughter is the...
Or it's like his goddaughter. It's like his friend's daughter. It's Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Right.
Yeah. And he is in a scene, he is on a horse riding through a subway.
That's right.
And I was like, I don't believe it. He's 89, and he's like on this horse getting jerked around. Like that would... Too old for a horse, I think.
It would not surprise me if that was his head digitally put on a stuntman.
Oh, I'm sure it's not him. I'm saying as a watcher, I'm like, even as a viewer, he should be off that horse.
Yeah.
Right, like you weren't even able to get involved because you're just worried about his hips.
The whole trailer, yes.
Just in the middle of a chase scene, he's got one of those like pill boxes with the days of the week, and he's like,
yeah, that's what I would expect.
Oh no, it was Wednesdays.
Oh no, I took the wrong day.
All right, now we can be done. I just wanted to throw that one more part in. Thought that was funny. Okay, Ophira, Christian, go see them live. Go see Christian's taping he just mentioned, and subscribe to his newsletter. Subscribe. That's newmusicforolds.substack.com. Go subscribe now to Parenting as a Joke. A lot of listeners should go sign up for that. It's free to sign up. Pay if you want to Parenting is a Joke, her Substack, and listen to the podcast. And that's it. That's all. I hope you have a great weekend. I love you and appreciate you. And here's a weekend-based quote from Bill Watterson. Weekends don't count unless you spend them doing something completely pointless. Thanks, Bill Watterson. I'm going to head out to my garden, which is just going to be eaten by a groundhog anyway. But that's not pointless. Okay, bye-bye.
You got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. Get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, to make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it than now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up. Oh, got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up, people got the power. Stand up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Stand up.